This story is called Alice's Restaurant. It's about Alice and the restaurant. But Alice's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant. That's just the name of the story. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything. Walk right in. It's around the back. It's just half a mile from the railroad track. You can literally get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. It all started 2 Thanksgivings ago. That's 2 years ago, on Thanksgiving, when my friend and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby, in the bell tower, with her husband Ray and their dog, Vacha. Living in a bell tower, they had a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be. Having all that room, seeing as they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. When we got up there, we found all the garbage, and we decided it would be a friendly gesture to take it to the dump. So we took the garbage, put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed to the dump. When we got there, there was a chain across the dump and a big sign saying, "Closed on Thanksgiving." We had never heard of a dump closed on Thanksgiving before. With tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset, looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one. Until we came to a side road. Off the side of the side road, there was a 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff, there was a pile of garbage. We decided that one big pile was better than 2 little ones. So instead of bringing that one up, we threw ours down. We drove back to the church, had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, went to sleep and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obi. He said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a 1/2 ton of garbage, and we just wanted to know if you had any information about it." And I said, "Yes, sir. Officer Obi, I can't tell a lie. I put that envelope under that garbage. After speaking to Obi for about 45 minutes on the telephone, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter, that we had to pick up the garbage. But first, we had to go speak to him at the police station. So we got in the red VW microbus with the shovels and rakes and implements of destruction and headed to the police station. There was only one or two things that Obi could have done at the police station, and the first was he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone. That wasn't very likely, and we didn't expect it. The other thing was that he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again. That is what we expected. But when we got to the police station, we were both immediately arrested, handcuffed, and I said, Obi, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on. He said, shut up, kid. Get in the back of the patrol car. So that's what we did. Sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the scene of the crime. I want to tell you about the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where this is happening. They have 3 stop signs, 2 police officers, and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there were 5 police officers and 3 police cars. Being the biggest crime of the last 50 years, everybody wanted to get in the newspaper story about it. They were using up all kinds of cop equipment that they had hanging around the police station. They were taking plaster tire tracks, footprints, dog-smelling prints, and they took 27 8x10 color glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. They took pictures of the approach, the getaway, the northwest corner, the southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. After that, we went back to the police station. Obi said he was going to put us in the cell. He said, kid, I'm going to put you in the cell. I want your wallet and your belt. And I said, Obi, I can understand you wanting my wallet, so I don't have any money to spend in the cell. But what do you want my belt for? And he said, kid, we don't want any hangings. I said, Obi, do you think I'm going to hang myself for littering? Obi said he was making sure. He was making sure. Because He took out the toilet seat so I couldn't hit myself over the head and drown. And he took out the toilet paper so I couldn't bend the bars, roll the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll and have an escape. Obi was making sure. It was about 4 or 5 hours later that Alice, remember Alice? This is a story about Alice. Alice came by and with a few nasty words to Obi on the side, bailed us out of jail, and we went back to the church, had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, and didn't get up until the next morning when we all had to go to court. We walked in, sat down. Obi came in with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. He sat down. A man came in and said, "All rise." We all stood up, and Obi stood up with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures. And the judge walked in with a seeing eye dog, and he sat down, we sat down, Obi sat down. Obi looked at the seeing eye dog, and then at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. And then Obi looked at the seeing eye dog. And then, at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. And then Obi began to cry, because he came to the realization that this was a typical case of American blind justice. There was nothing he could do about it. The judge simply wasn't going to look at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was. We were fined $50 and had to pick up the garbage in the snow. But that's not what I wanted to tell you about. I wanted to talk about the draft. They have a building in New York City. It's called Whitehall Street. It's where you walk in. You get inspected, detected, injected, infected, neglected, and selected. I went down to get my physical examination one day. I walked in, I sat down. I had consumed a lot of alcohol the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in that morning. I wanted to look like the all-American kid from New York City. I wanted to feel like the all-American kid from New York City. I wanted to be the all-American kid from New York City. And I walked in and sat down. I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I walked in and sat down, and they gave me a piece of paper and said, "Kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. And I went up there. I said, "Shrink. I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. I want to eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill. And I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And he started jumping up and down with me, and we were both jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And the sergeant came over, pinned a medal on me, sent me down the hall, and said, "You're our boy." I didn't feel too good about it. I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time, going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. I finally came to see the last man. I walked in, sat down, and said to him, "What do you want?" And he said, "Kid, we only have one question. Have you ever been arrested?" So I proceeded to tell him the story of Alice's restaurant, with full orchestration and 5-part harmony and all the phenomena, and he stopped me right there and said, "Kid, did you ever go to court?" And I proceeded to tell him about the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. And he stopped me right there and said, "Kid, I want you to go and sit down on that bench that says Group W. Now, kid." And I walked over to the bench there. Group W is where they put you if you may not be moral enough to join the army after committing your special crime. And there were all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people on the bench. And the meanest, ugliest, nastiest one, the meanest one of them all, was coming over to me. He sat down next to me and said, "Kid, what'd you get?" And I said, "I didn't get anything. I had to pay $50 and pick up the garbage." He said, "Kid, what were you arrested for?" And I said, "Littering." And they all moved away from me on the bench, giving me the hairy eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty things, until I said, "And creating a nuisance." And then they all came back, shook my hand. Everything was fine. And we were talking about all kinds of groovy things on the bench. We were smoking cigarettes and all kinds of things, talking about crime, until the sergeant came over. He had some paper in his hand. He held it up and said, "Kids, this piece of papers got 47 words, 37 sentences, 58 words. We want to know details of the crime, time of the crime, and any other kind of thing you gotta say pertaining to and about the crime. I want to know the arresting,
the date of the court appearance, the date of the crime.
And he talked for 45 minutes. But nobody understood a word he said. But we had fun, filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench. And I filled out this whole story in 4-part harmony and wrote it all down there, just like it was. And everything was fine. And I put down my pencil. And I turned over the piece of paper. And there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, read the following words: "Kid, have you rehabilitated yourself?" I went over to the sergeant and said, "Sergeant, you have a lot of damn gall to ask me if I've rehabilitated myself. I mean just that I'm sitting here on the bench. I mean, I'm sitting here on the Group W bench because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army, burn women, children, houses, and villages after being a litter bug." He looked at me and said, "Kid, we don't like your kind. We're going to send your fingerprints off to Washington. And somewhere in Washington, enshrined in some little folder, is a study in black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm telling you this story is because you may know somebody in a similar situation. Or you may be in a similar situation. And if you are in a similar situation, there's only one thing you can do. That's walk into the psychiatrist's office wherever you are. Just walk in and say, "Shrink, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant," and then walk out. If one person, just one person does this, they may think he's really sick and they won't take him. And if two people do it in harmony, they may think they're homosexuals and they won't take either of them. And three people, can you imagine 3 people walking in, saying those words about Alice's restaurant and walking out? Well, they may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day? I said 50 people a day walking in, saying those words about Alice's restaurant and walking out. They may think it's a movement, and that's what it is. This is the Alice's Restaurant anti-massacre movement. then all you have to do to join is say it with me. With feeling. Are you ready? Here it comes. Say it with me. Here it comes. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in. It's around the back. It's just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. That was horrible. I've been telling this story for 23 minutes. I could tell it for another 23 minutes. I'm not proud or tired. If you want to end war, you have to say it loud. So we'll wait until everybody is ready to say it with me with feeling. Okay? Okay. Here we go. Say it with me. Here it comes. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in. It's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in. It's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can literally get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. At Alice's restaurant.